What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about sleepers in this year's NBA draft. When talking about this, there are many different opinions, so don't get mad if you think a certain player sucks on this list, or if I didn't mention a sleeper you think is in this draft, like Quentin Grimes. With all that being said today, I'll talk about four guys who I think are sleepers in the 2021 NBA draft. In Bones Highland, Trey Mann, Jaden Springer, and James Bouknight. So let's get right into it. Now, the first player on my list is Bones Highland. Bones Highland is one of my favorite draft prospects, and he's shooting up big boards right now. He went to VCU. He couldn't play in March Madness due to COVID restrictions. One of his teammates had COVID. And this might hurt his stock, but not seeing him play against March Madness talent. Luckily, he's performing well against better players in the draft combine, making his draft stock skyrocket. At VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, he's a sophomore, and he was averaging 19.5 points with good shooting splits against not-so-great competition. In this draft combine, in the game, he scored 17 points. He had 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 block shots, and 1 steal in 23 minutes on the court. And keep in mind, you can see, but he's pretty skinny. He finished the first scrimmage game by shooting 7 for 11 from the field, including 3 for 5 from deep. His measurements for his physical ability on his score were 10.53 seconds on the lane agility run, which was second in the whole combine, meaning he's really good at changing directions, manipulating the defense, which helps when, manipulating the defense, like I said. And it even helps with perimeter defense using the lateral quickness and change in direction. This time, it was easier for Bones to get because it's really easier to change his direction because of how small he is. I think he's slept on because he went to a smaller school with less competition and doesn't have the necessary weight right now to play in the NBA. Now to talk why I think he's a sleeper. I think his game is very transferable, if that's a word, to the NBA, especially with his balance and skill. I don't know if this is recency bias, but I've seen a guy like Trae Young be able to manipulate these defenses with floaters and his threat of a shot. And if I was Bones, this is who I look to learn from, or base his game off of. Bones showed great playmaking throughout the combine, and his weight didn't seem to affect his play as much as you would have thought. I think his situation is very important for his development, and I think he needs to I know he has to put on some weight before he can be effective in the NBA. But with his shooting and recent play against better competition in the NBA Combine, I think this proves that he can transfer his game to the NBA. More weight might help though, and ranked at 68th on ESPN's big board, that's a steal to me. Trey Mann is my second guy on this list. I'm sure many of you have heard about him. Out of Florida, he's a sophomore, because I heard some people rank him quite high, but most consistently have him in the first round, mid to late first round. ESPN has him ranked 20th on their big board. I think other people rank him lower because they don't know how good, they don't think he'll be that good of an offensive scorer in the NBA, or just because the draft class is really good. I mean, this draft class is very good. Trey Mann is known as a three-point shooter that is quick and has good handles. He went to Florida and he averaged 16 points per game with over 40% from three-point range and more than 4 attempts per game. He faced pretty good competition there too in the ACC, such as FSU and other schools, but they beat Virginia Tech in March Madness and then lost to Oral Roberts. Like, that might hurt him. But Trey Mann couldn't go to the draft combine. That's what will hurt him in the end. He was sick and he couldn't go, but he should raise his stock when the time comes and he comes back. I feel like he'll do well in interviews. One concern I have about him is his stats, is how much his 3-point and field goal efficiency went up this season compared to last season. And we're hoping this good shooting is carried over to NBA and not just a fluke of this season. Another concern is his IQ on offense and his potential on defense due to his short wingspan. I think his game fits in the modern NBA, and for me, even if he doesn't develop his playmaking or any of that on offense, he can still be that shot-making point guard at worst, in my opinion. Trey Mann is a 6'5", and he weighs 190, so he still has a lot of room to put on weight, and that will help him when the offense is collapsing so he can finish better. What I think he has super high upside is because he can pull up and make it from so many places. He can score so well, and that he may be tricking me, but even if he doesn't have his athleticism, he makes those shots, and he can get that defender off balance with his dribble moves. So overall, I like Trey Mann as a prospect. Okay, so the third guy on my list, Jaden Springer. Jaden Springer is known as a prospect that's going to be a good defensive prospect, but probably has low upside. I disagree with that, and I'll get to that. He has some inconsistency in creating any offense for himself, but he's still okay at it. Many people saw him as a low potential guy since he was sitting below average athleticism and not so great shooting volume as he went to a limited offense in Tennessee who didn't shoot many threes. But before I get into potential, I want to talk about his college play and this draft combine so far. In college, he averaged 12.5 points, good splits. However, he didn't shoot many threes, so that percentage might be misleading on his three-point percentage. He's a willing defender, helped his team a ton on that side of the ball, and he was really a leader on that side of the ball. With his defensive presence, he was injured at one point through the season, and the team went on a losing streak. He came back, the team started winning again. I know it may be weird to say he's a winner. And I know many of you may not like this pick in Jaden Springer, just because you guys think he's low upside. But I think he has higher upside, and I'll explain why after I do this. I think he is slept on because his offensive upside is higher than most people give him credit for with his sneaky athleticism. He did pretty well in the max vert. I think he was somewhere near the top 10, which is impressive for a guy who's deemed as non-athletic. But it just could be because he doesn't look athletic next to Keon Johnson, who broke the combine record. So, I saw some people comparing Marcus Smart, which is a pretty good comparison for the most part. I think Marcus Smart is a great defender, great leader, willing three-point shooter. But the hope for Jaden Springer is that he can be more consistent type guy for the team on offense. Many people question his explosiveness, yet his max vert was 41.5 the other day. If he finds a team that develops him right offensively, like the Spurs developed Keldon Johnson, he can have similar offensive game to Keldon Johnson, except less dunking, of course. That is his upside, but frankly, he's a low downside player. Yes, he does have those questions with his shot. Many players do. And being as young as he has time to fix it. He's one of the youngest players in the draft. And when he fixes it, he can make it more consistent. I think he just needs those reps with his shot. I think the best place he can go is in the late first round that doesn't pressure him right away so he can develop. And he's ranked 27th on ESPN Big Board, so that'd be perfect for him. Okay. Before you guys leave a dislike, let me just explain. So the fourth guy on my list might be a surprise. You might not think he's a sleeper because he's ranked too high, but this guy is James Bouknight at the University of Connecticut. He's ranked 14th on ESPN's Big Board. The reason I think he's a sleeper, most people limit his game just to scoring. When he can play make, he can rebound as good as any guard. I think he should be ranked way higher than not way higher, but not the top 5, but he's right below the top 5. And I really like him as a prospect. James Bouknight is great as a scorer, and he's known as a scorer who averaged 18.7 points on 27.9% efficiency from three. This three-point percentage went down from last season, which may be concerning, but he did injure his elbow in the middle of the season this season. Once he gets back in rhythm, I think he could get his three-point a little bit up, but still not good. In a league, I think he'll be a guy like Donovan Mitchell, very streaky shooter. In fact, I think Donovan Mitchell is a great comparison for him if he improves his shot and he keeps his athleticism. He has his form mechanics down, that stuff. But he just needs the reps. He needs to shoot more. He needs to get in the gym, and that'll be easy once he's in a league. And he started basketball late, around high school, freshman, which is why he just needs more rep shooting. He's known as a slasher and had to score for his team this year. He had to do a lot for this team, this UConn team, but at the cost of not showing his other abilities like playmaking. He didn't really have much help around him last year too. During the time between this season and the draft, he said in an interview he was trying to improve his mid-range, just shooting a lot of mid-range shot, which I like that he's doing that. Mid-range is lethal, and I think it's necessary for a good player to have, or a superstar to have, because mid-range, harder to stop in playoffs. So I'd like to see how he improves there. His weaknesses are poor shot selection and his passing ability. Firstly, on shot selection, he was most of the scoring on that UConn team. He was asked to score, so yes, he had to score. But at the next level, at one point, you have to score that amount of points. But he'll have better spacing around him, so it'll be easier to avoid bad shots if the other team doesn't just crash on you. Yeah, he could try and pass it out, but he was asked to score. So I guess that's something like, should he have passed it out? Was he asked to pass it out? It's very interesting to see how that will develop on him. But next reason there might be a concern is his playmaking. And in this situation, he does need to work on this. And I think he can learn over time, just like Zach LaVine did this year, to take pressure off Kobe White. But if he learns to play make over time, he could run the point guard for teams, which would be very good. And yeah, so I like him. And don't be mad that he's on here, but he's ranked 14th as a sleeper. So that's my list, guys. Tell me who I forgot in the comments. I'll probably make a part 2. And thanks for watching. See you next time.